WisconsinEye's Campaign 2024 programming is sponsored by Wisconsin Counties Association, Nicolet National Bank, Wisconsin Hospital Association, Operating Engineers Local 139, the Wisconsin Realtors Association, the Wisconsin Laborers District Council, and North Central State's Regional Council of Carpenters. To support programs like this, please consider a tax-deductible donation at wiseye.org/donate or by texting WisCI to 44321.
Joe Lavrenz of Fond du Lac is the Democratic candidate for the 60th Assembly District. The election is November 5th. Joe Lavrenz, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here and, enjoying Ripon here.
Well, exactly. Thank you for participating in our candidate interview. What is your campaign's key message? Why are you running for this office?
So the biggest couple of things I want to really tackle are, healthcare costs, housing costs, and helping with our public education. Try and make sure that we get some more funding into our public education to make sure we get a better quality education for our kids and make sure that everybody's given the same opportunities in order to grow and thrive in the state. And I think that tackling healthcare costs, housing costs are going to help with that too.
So if you are elected, what's an example of a bill that would be a priority for you to introduce?
I think the first thing I want to do is try and increase funding for our public schools. That would be my first day one target, is to try and get that. Because I'm with the school board right now in Fond du Lac, and I'm just seeing that we're going to referendum on a lot of other, in a lot of other cities in the ground. We're going to be discussing that potentially here in Fond du Lac. I want to be able to have us enough funding so we don't have to worry about doing that locally.
So if you win this election, you would be entering the assembly during a biennial budget year. Mm-hmm. The state's projected to have more than $3 billion surplus. Yep. I'm wondering what your top two priorities for use of that surplus are. I think I heard you say education.
Education is number one.
Is there another priority?
I think that it's kind of a couple of different ones in there. I want housing costs, healthcare costs, and then childcare.
So wherever you would invest?
Wherever the best ones would be to invest. I think childcare would help with a lot of our job situation, in order to make sure that we can get more people into the workforce and, give more people opportunities. But also helping with housing, because housing is very unaffordable right now. Rents are pretty high and it's almost impossible to buy a new house. Or even not a used one, but, a fixer-upper one. They just aren't available. So those are the types of things I'd like to see us tackle.
So you're talking about some spending priorities. What about taxes? Should any of that surplus be put toward tax cuts or tax reform in Wisconsin?
I think you could look at reforming it, but I don't necessarily think that cutting anything is going to do anything. I think reinvesting in these different areas will help people more than just getting a flat cut.
You've already talked about K-12 education. I wonder what you're hearing from voters and what is your priority? What's working, what's not working in K-12 education?
So what I think is what we really need is more investment, especially in things like special education and just being able to support our teachers better. Because we do have basically a teacher shortage throughout the entire state. And we need to do more for investing in those teachers, getting more in order to help out, to be able to alleviate the pressure in the classrooms, to also make sure they can get the best education opportunities that they need in order to improve themselves, in order to, be better teachers. I think that type of investment would be very helpful.
What about higher education in Wisconsin? Mm-hmm. 4-year colleges, 2-year mm-hmm. colleges, technical colleges. What does the future of higher education look like to you, and what should the legislature focus on?
I think the legislature should focus on trying to help drive down the costs of 4-year college, because it's pretty unaffordable. But we should also be pushing people to look at the tech trades, to look into a 2-year college, work towards getting that additional education. And especially in the tech schools, that puts you right into the job market right away afterwards. And I think that would just be another good way to improve, our job prospects.
What do you see as the state's largest workforce development challenge, and how do you propose addressing this?
Well, there we go. Education, I think being able to push towards the tech schools would help a lot, that we can get more people invested in there. I think just getting enough workers in there also, because there's a lot of a workforce right now that's stuck unable to work because of childcare issues. And I think that addressing the childcare shortage issue that we have in the state would help immensely.
What is the solution in childcare?
I think it's getting investment in more childcare centers and getting more providers that are available to help with childcare.
Investments in public and energy infrastructure grow our state's economy. These investments also provide an opportunity to invest in our state's workforce, but currently there are no requirements for hiring local workers. Would you support a state resident hiring requirement for state, local, and utility scale infrastructure investments?
Yeah, I think that it would be good to start, because if we can invest in getting everybody locally, it helps grow our economy, rather than funding that out to, other states. It just makes a lot more sense to try and get local, whether it's, from the city, directly in Fond du Lac would be great, but obviously if we can just keep it within state, it would, keep that money here.
Employee classification is an issue in the construction industry. Some employers misclassify workers as independent contractors or pay them in cash off the books. This lowers costs by avoiding payroll taxes and unemployment insurance, and it puts compliant companies at a disadvantage when bidding on projects. Plus, misclassified workers may be denied minimum wage protections or overtime pay. Are you aware of this, and what should be done about it?
I think that it would be good to have more education on that whole situation. Make sure that the contracting companies know what needs to be done for this, and try and root out the ones that are trying to break the rules and pay people under the books, and not get involved in the tax situation, and be able to get everybody on board and paying what they should be.
Housing, you mentioned this as a priority. Affordable rental housing is an issue in Wisconsin. Some have proposed government-imposed rent control to maintain affordability, while others argue keeping rent artificially low will decrease rental supply, resulting in increased prices. What is your sense of housing as an issue, and which best addresses rental housing affordability, rent control or building more rentals?
I think building more rentals, especially ones that are, at lower rates, would help a ton. Or even just fixing up ones that are currently existing. There's plenty of building space out there, a lot of unused, warehouses, offices that, have basically been abandoned since COVID. Why can't those be turned into apartment complexes?
So what should the legislature, what should their role be?
I think it should be trying to invest in, getting these projects up and running. Rent controls, I think, would help a little bit, but there is definitely an issue with rent control just in general, because that stifles a little bit of the, innovation to it. So I think that you got to get more investment in as kind of the first step.
Healthcare. Medical systems are facing numerous headwinds in the form of inflation, workforce development, and issues around Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, resulting in fewer services and even the closure of a hospital system in western Wisconsin. What would you do to preserve access to care and prevent future closures?
Well, it's another thing that we could invest in just as a state, because we need to make sure that we have hospital care, or just healthcare in general, to all of these areas, rural and urban areas. Make sure that everybody's able to get the most quality that they can. And I think that we need to put investments in to prevent those types of closures.
So more funding
more funding to help out with it, be able to make sure that they're getting reimbursed as needed. And I think one of the biggest things that we could do is take the additional Medicaid money that we haven't done from the state. Like, the legislature's been sitting on that, like the Obamacare money from way back then. Like, I feel like that would help a ton, because it's extra money that could just help in these situations.
Mental health care is also a growing concern for Wisconsinites and for state and county budgets. In your district, what are you hearing on this issue, and how would you address mental health care? Mental health care
is part of health care just in general. So I think we need investment in that type of field also. Help people get the therapy and the help that they need. And I think that part of the mental portion of it comes down to things like, the criminality and drug use and things like that too. Those are all things that we can invest in to try and help make things better for people, so that way they can, move on with their lives, and thrive.
What about abortion policy? How should Wisconsin move forward on the issue of abortion?
So my opinion on abortion is, I'm not going to have one, obviously, but I think it's up to the person and their doctor and their family to decide. It's not up to the legislature to decide that for people. I think that we should be leaving people alone on that.
You don't have any thoughts on limits?
I mean, obviously after they're born, which is what I hear a lot, then it's not an abortion anymore, then it's murder. But I think that you shouldn't have any limits, because it's on the health of the person, of the woman, and, the health of their child, if it's, feasible. But
what about transportation? What are the pressing transportation needs in your district, and how important is it that these needs are addressed, and for the state to keep on schedule with the reconstruction of aging interstates and significant corridors of commerce?
Yeah. Fond du Lac still has a lot of roads, but we're working on them. I talk with their city council people. They're going through projects and repairing our roads because there are some damaged ones, some potholes still out there. But I think that as we repair those, it's definitely making things better, making things a lot more smooth. Got to keep working on that for the local roads, and then work on the highways to make sure that they're, straight through, so that way we can, get through without damage to vehicles, and actually just have a clean and easy path to get to anywhere you need to go.
PFAS and other water contaminants are a concern for a growing number of Wisconsinites. Do you see this as an important issue, and how would you propose addressing it?
Yes, I think it is very important because I would prefer clean air and clean water. So I think that if we continue to contaminate our water tables, continue to contaminate, the air, we need to be going after those polluters and be able to try and prevent them from continuing to destroy things like, our water supply. So I think that we should have proposals to, try and roll back those farms that are pushing in those PFAS and just any of the other things that are getting into our ecosystem.
We are down to the final two questions.
Sure.
How would you describe the leading differences between you and your opponent?
I think the biggest one that you'll see as a stark contrast is our abortion, answer on that. I think that abortion should be is fine, as long as, it's up to the woman to decide. And he's very pro-life. I mean, I know that just in talking with him before. I can tell that there's a very big difference there. I think a lot of the thing is, we both think that there's a lot of things that are the same. We both think that inflation's an issue, that we think that housing's an issue and things like that. It's just a matter of getting to the solution is what the biggest difference is that we have.
Final question for you today. If you could have a magic wand, say you're elected, you get this magic wand, you can use it in the state capitol and have just one issue resolved in a way that brings people together, what would the issue be?
So funny enough, I was thinking about this one, and I think that it wouldn't necessarily be a policy that I'd be looking for, but just ways to combat the disinformation and misinformation that's out there in not just the media, but your social media and then everything else, to try and turn the temperature down. Because really, we need to get to the point again where we can talk to somebody, have a disagreement with them, but not end up having to fight them. You can still be able to shake hands and come to a compromise at the end of it. And right now our politics is just butting heads way too much and just fighting for everything instead of being able to find something in the middle that'll actually help everybody instead of your side being the only one that can win.
All right. Thank you, Joe Lavrenz of Fond du Lac, the Democratic candidate for the 60th Assembly District. The election is November 5th. Joe Lavrenz, thank you for talking with WisconsinEye.
Well, thanks for having me.
This programming is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Thank you for watching.